attempt is this for you?
So this is my third attempt.
At the interview or otherwise?
So for the interview, this is my first attempt, and overall, this is my third attempt.
Okay. So first time you didn't clear the...
So in the first and the second attempt, I could not clear prelims.
Oh, is it?
Yes, sir.
So this time you have cleared both the things.
Right, sir.
Hoping that you will clear the third also. Why not?
Yes, sir.
You will always hope for good things. But we let you know that later you are facing an interview.
Right, sir.
So you answer the questions from that perspective. Some people think that this is a coaching institute for interview. No, that it is not. Okay, we are only simulating an interview board so that you get the benefit of, sitting before a board. I believe you are by qualification a technical person, educated person, is it?
Yes.
Mechanical engineer and all that. Is this a private institution, this Graphic Era University?
Yes, sir, it is a deemed university.
Deemed university. Okay. And are you working anywhere?
Sir, I was working with Ashok Leyland as a deputy manager, and sir, I had quit in 2016.
Why did you do that?
Sir, this was, so while working in Ashok Leyland, though I was able to make an indirect impact by creating, because the kind of buses and the trucks that we create. But sir, I felt that overall to actually actualize my potential to create a more bigger impact and the kind of diverse opportunity which civil services gives. So I felt that in all my intellectual honesty, it would be right on my part to quit and then prepare with all dedication.
May I know your preferences for services?
Yes, sir. So my first preference is IAS. So second is IPS. So third is Indian Foreign Services.
What exactly do you think is the role of the foreign service for India? I mean, yes,
sir, foreign services plays a very crucial role because our ambassadors, so they show to the world what India is, and sir, in that way, be it in the bilateral relations and be it in the overall multilateral relations, it plays a very important part. And sir, in this changing overall dynamics of international relations, so wherein India is now playing an important part, I feel the foreign services
that is foreign service, okay,
right,
as a whole. But as far as Indian foreign service officials are concerned, do you think they have an important role in this very grandiose picture which you are given?
Yes, sir, I feel that they do have an important role because while talking at the track one level...
Let me intervene, because you already answered. The point is, all the major countries generally get ambassadors or high commissioners from outside the foreign service. As far as the economic minister is concerned in major embassies, every embassy doesn't have a major one. They're generally either from the IAS or from some other service or from some other field. As far as diplomacy is concerned, the prime ministers of the present days, at least the last 10-15 years I would say, I'm not distinguishing between Nehru era and now, they hardly consult the foreign secretary when they're taking very important decisions on diplomacy or foreign relations. I'm talking from some experience that I have. I could be wrong also. How then can you say that the foreign service officers have a very important role? I've already spelled out a few things to you.
Sir, the Prime Minister definitely has the mandate in that he has to take in the national interest, and in that the kind of inputs he perhaps gets either from the Ministry of External Affairs or from the...
Okay, I'll give you an example. You know what the foreign service officers would say? Because I have been in the government of India. I've also been in the United Nations. So that's also a kind of diplomatic role. So I have been in touch with foreign service. No foreign service officer will advise you to go or receive a major country's head or prime minister or whatever with a bear hug. It's not done. It's not done. Our foreign service officers will all confirm that. Yet he does it. He spelled out a few things from his policy to those people which a foreign service officer will never advise. Because I've seen them advising ministers when I was posted abroad. In my presence, how they advise. You are not to say this, please don't touch this aspect, do that, do this. But when our present Prime Minister speaks out, doesn't follow any of those norms. How then do you say that he has the mandate and therefore, the foreign services officers still have an important role? So take your time, because this is my only question.
Okay, sir. Okay. So can I have 5 to 10 seconds to think about it?
Of course, always. Because you have opted for that service.
Right, sir.
If you hadn't, I wouldn't be asking.
So to answer the first part of your question, sir, the particular traits which our Prime Minister displays. So, sir, this kind of dealing, sir, this could be a bit informal, or it could mean that he's not following the protocol. But I feel that it also serves a purpose, because in that way he is able to maintain.
No, you digressed a lot. I'm not saying whether he's doing the right thing or the wrong thing.
Yes, sir.
But is he doing it according to the foreign service mandate or protocol or not? And why? And then how can you say that they play an important role? If they're being sidelined, then they can't be playing an important role. Otherwise, please inform me.
So from whatever limited knowledge I have, sir, I feel that in all the briefings and in all the discussions, so the inputs which the Foreign Secretary or the officials of the Indian Foreign Services give, so that is...
In Shiv Shankar's case, fine. But what about the lady, Sujata Singh? Was she consulted? Was she ever taken seriously? And why was she removed? You are talking of advice. You are talking of some principles which you've read somewhere. But you're not actually thinking about them from the because all this comes out in the newspapers. It's all common, whatever you say these days. It's public domain, so to say. Because Sujata Singh even gave interviews on it. So, I don't know. You might like to think about this, madam.
I was just going through your resume. Meditation seems to be your thing. And when I noticed the way you were thinking exactly the meditation posture. You were opening your eyes, looking straight, and this. So, what is meditation? What is the advantage? And what is the pinnacle of meditation? What is it?
Ma'am, meditation, it means to focus our attention on a particular thing. It could, in our exercise, I could be focusing on my breath, I could be focusing on my thoughts, or I could be focusing to be only in the present. And it helps me to increase my focus, to manage my emotions better, and it overall helps me to perform better.
Is it a myth, or has it really helped you?
Ma'am, this is definitely not a myth. I have been practicing it for the last 4 years, and because I felt that there was a lot of chatter going on in my mind, and then in case when I used to feel overwhelmed, and after meditating, I used to feel a lot composed. So, ma'am, in my particular case, I definitely don't think it's a myth.
Okay, and what is the ultimate form of meditation?
Ma'am, the ultimate form of meditation, I feel, varies from individual to individual. At my stage, I feel whatever kind of improved focus.
Have you read the autobiography of Yogi?
Yes, ma'am, I have read that.
Does it remind you of what I'm asking you?
Ma'am, it details the process of Kriya Yoga, and in which it speaks about the spiritual awakening and the consciousness. But ma'am, at those levels, I have not been able to experience that.
What is TM?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the word TM in context of meditation?
TM.
Ma'am,
What is the full form?
To transcendental meditation.
Yes, what is it?
Ma'am, it was started by Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, And in transcendental meditation, what we do is that we take our awareness into a more superconscious state, in the sense that we are totally detached.
What are these various kinds of consciousness? Lower consciousness, high level consciousness, cosmic consciousness. What are those?
Ma'am, in terms of consciousness, basically means awareness. So suppose what am I saying, and what is its objective? I may be talking only in the terms of my basic needs. But in case my basic needs are fulfilled, and this is something which Abraham Maslow also talks about.
Great.
May I add one?
Yeah, sure.
Since you seem to have done quite a lot of reading, there was a French philosopher, Teilhard de Chardin. Have you heard of him?
I'm sorry, sir,
because he has written a lot about the levels of consciousness.
Okay, sir.
That did make a lot of sense. At least to me.
I'll definitely read about it some more.
Teilhard de Chardin.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
De means off. Chardin must be the town from where he came. Okay. And Teilhard is the name.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'll read about it.
Okay, now let's come to the last question from my side. You've done B.Tech, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So can you take a pause and think before you answer me? Can you think of any specific example, possible example, where a technocrat like you, if you clear the exams, would be able to help us move towards sustainable development goals? Have you heard of SDGs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how would technology, give me a use case where technology can help us to achieve sustainable development goals?
MDG?
अब तो गए सर पुराने हो गए.
Which are the more recent ones?
So SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals.
What are they?
Sir, so sustainable development actually is the intersection of economics and environment, and they call for a participative approach in which there are 17 basic targets which have to be, which started from 2015 and has to be completed by 2030. So sir, in these cases, by achieving these targets, we'll have a more sustainable development.
So,
coming back to your question.
Use case of technology,
yes,
for achieving SDGs.
Ma'am, in terms of technology, ma'am, there are a lot of frontiers on which we can work. As I'm a mechanical engineer, and because I have had few experiences in the automobile field.
No, I saw there's a streak of innovation in your resume where you won a competition.
Yes, ma'am. It was related to energy conservation. So, ma'am, when we speak of technology and if we integrate energy conservation to it, ma'am, it is important for us right now to focus more on renewable energies. So if we focus more on that and focus more on energy efficiency, we will firstly make a more sustainable world. Second.
Okay. Thank you.
You're from Kanpur?
So my mother was from Kanpur.
My mother is from Kanpur. Okay, how all India services are created?
So they are created under the Article 312.
Okay, which are the all India services presently?
So the all India services are Indian Administrative Services, Indian Police Services, Indian Revenue Services.
All India service.
Indian Revenue Services, not all India services.
Oh, that's not. Sorry. And what about your third preference?
So foreign services.
Is it also an all India service? Is it under the same IFS?
So not very sure.
There are only 3 all India services: Indian Forest Service, IS, and IFS. These are the 3 services. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Have you heard about the police commissioner system?
Yes, sir. Police commissioner system.
2 types of policing. There is a traditional policing system, that is the superintendent of police, and the father is a superintendent of police. In his superintendent
Yes,
of
sir.
police.
Sir, he was recently
Retired. Retired.
No, sir. He is actively working, and sir, he is right now DIG.
He's now DIG. Okay, doesn't matter. That's good. So, what's the difference between superintendent of police and commissioner of police? Have you noticed? There are 2 types of systems,
right,
since you are from the police family.
Right, sir.
That's why I'm asking you.
So the exact differences, sir, I'm not very sure about that.
You're not sure. It's a very significant kind of thing because at certain areas, in certain so many states like
So
Maharashtra,
Maharashtra, sir, they do have
Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh,
Commissionerate.
Punjab,
It is
Bengal,
called commissionerate.
commissionates, no police commissionates, but UP is not is
UP
not yet started any commissionerate. Even there are cities are the big cities. You should read about that. Okay, you are from you have the political science and this
Right.
thing. How constitution can be amended? What is the procedure? Where it is?
So the process for amendment of a constitution, sir, it can start in the either house of the parliament and it cannot start in the state legislature. So secondly, it can done only by a minister or by a private member, and it does not require the approval of the president. And sir,
Doesn't require approval of president.
it does not require the prior approval of a president. But sir, after that, when the motion for amendment is passed by the either house by a special majority, and sir, in case the second house does not agree to it, so sir, there is no provision for a joint sitting in case of an constitutional amendment. And sir, it is entailed in the Article 368. And sir, if both the houses agree and if it is passed to the president, and if and he has to give assent to it because of the 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, and after doing that, sir,
Is it true that any constitutional amendment cannot be challenged before any courts in India? Is it true?
so this is not true. It can be challenged.
That is clause 4 and 5 of the Article 366. They say that. Have you heard about that? Any commentary or anything?
Sir, earlier the Constitutional Amendment Acts in the previous verdicts of Supreme Court in the Shankari Prasad case and earlier cases, sir, it said that the constitutional amendment comes under the constitutive power of the parliament, and therefore they cannot be challenged. But sir, in the later,
specifically, I'm asking Article 368, clause 4 and 5. They were added in
right, sir.
1976 by 42nd Amendment, and they provide that the Constitution Amendment cannot be challenged before the court, before any court
Of law.
of law.
But sir, if it violates the basic structure, so in that case it can be challenged.
Actually, then there was a petition against this thing, and these were declared null and void, but still nothing has been done actually, and those two clauses still are there in the Constitution, but they are not applicable. They are not applicable because of that Supreme Court judgment. That's the problem.
Okay, sir.
Yes. I was looking at your form.
Right.
Let me start with some extracurricular activities and interests of yours. Which is the biography? Do you read biographies? Do you read autobiographies too?
Sir, I read both.
You read both.
Yes, sir.
Which one is your favorite? Something that you would have liked to read again and again?
So a few months back, I read the biography of Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
It was written by Ashley Vance.
Ashley Vance, yes.
And the kind of work he is doing, right from Tesla to SpaceX to the kind of entrepreneur he is, so that I feel is very inspiring.
Mm-hmm. What is so inspiring in the biography? In that, because how would you compare it with Steve Jobs' his autobiography? What is the difference between the two? I've read both, so just explain it to me. What is the difference
Has
between
he
them?
read that, Steve?
Have you read Steve Jobs's?
So biography by Isaac Watterson.
Yes.
Sir,
So read all Steve Jobs has done his own autobiography too.
Sir, I am aware of the biography.
Okay, you have not anyway. Tell me something that you've read. What is it that has really made you say that this is the best?
So I could compare both Steve Jobs and
Whatever you'd like, you do it the way you like. I've given you an open hand, free hand to do whatever you like.
Okay.
One is a biography, other is an autobiography. So or both the biographies as you like. You do it.
So in the particular case of Elon Musk, the kind of childhood he had, because he had not done a lot of formal schooling as such, but he was trained to think into problems in the.
Steve Jobs was also a school dropout, wasn't he?
So he was also. So the kind of work which Steve Jobs did, it was focused on creating a product which was, I think, which could surpass all the expectations of a customer. In case of Elon Musk, he was always trying to find a solution to create a better world. And in that sense, he challenged all the conventional beliefs and he went on to create the electric vehicles at a point when that was not thought about. Secondly, the plans to colonize Mars. So that was in itself revolutionary at that point. And the fact that NASA was not able to do so very successfully, but Elon Musk with his repeated
It was a
attempts.
revolutionary idea, or it was a revolutionary hypothesis, or revolutionary proposition. What was it?
Sir, it was a revolutionary idea.
Okay. So do ideas make revolution?
So definitely, if we see the case of French Revolution, ideas also they make revolution, sir.
But Napoleon became the ruler after the French Revolution. French Revolution did not succeed in its aims.
But sir, French Revolution gave to the world the ideals of
Okay, carry on with the biography part. So let's not get into French Revolution because history is not your subject. I don't want you to get caught on the wrong foot. Because
So then he is making a lot of forays into improving the mobility. So the all these kind of diverse applications and all of this is being done by a single entrepreneur. Though I would not like to belittle any of the achievements of Steve Jobs because Apple is considered one of the highest form of innovation ecosystem which a company can aspire for. But in case of Elon Musk,
I'm not saying who is good, who is worse, who is
Right.
bad. I'm just saying in terms of the writing. Please try to understand that as literary work, two works are presented before you, and you like one. What is it in there which you like? I'm not talking about my experiments with Truth of Mahatma Gandhi. You may not like the style of writing, but Mahatma Gandhi is a great person. That's fine. I'm not asking you to compare the two personalities. I'm asking you to compare two literary works.
so the writing in case of Steve Jobs, sir, it is more balanced. I feel in case of Elon Musk, the work by Ashley Vance. So I feel
Second hobby of yours,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, playing ukulele and guitar.
yes, sir.
Fine. Can you tell me briefly the difference between the two?
Yes, sir. So the basic difference is that generally in a ukulele we have 4 strings. In case of guitar, normally we have 6 strings. So secondly, the material used in both is different. In case of ukulele,
But ukulele may not have just 4 strings. It could have 4 sets of chords also.
yes, sir.
3 or 2 at one place, and
Right,
again
sir,
3,
right.
and then
Yes,
3
sir.
and 3 and 3. Right?
Yes, sir.
That's it. Okay.
And so then the material of strings is different.
Where does it come from? What is its origin?
So origin of ukulele is from Hawaii.
No. Think, go back in history.
Sir,
Where did the Hawaiians get it
from
from?
Portugal.
Yeah, and what did the Portuguese have? An ukulele or something else?
So it was not exactly ukulele, it was something else. Sir, I'm forgetting that.
No, it's all right.
particular
Never mind. Go and brush it up. Finally, my one last question to you is you've done political science and international relations.
Yes, sir.
How do we create pressure on Pakistan in the current situation through international diplomacy to make Pakistan accept that or stop proxy war? If you were the foreign minister or foreign secretary of India, what efforts would you have thought would be most successful in that direction?
So apart from the steps which the government has already taken.
No, I'm just asking you a simple question. It
Okay.
is obvious. It is obvious.
Okay, sir.
Those steps have not been successful yet. I'm talking about the steps which you think would be more successful than what has already been done and not achieved.
So,
Suppose you are the Prime Minister, how will you handle it?
so like on the economic front, so we have withdrawn the MFN's most favored nation status, and we have hiked the import
Is
duties.
it of any significance for the Pakistanis? You
Sir,
feel that it's going to affect them
so
and their
not-
economy badly?
So not as much, but
Just because we don't eat Pakistani onions and Pakistani mangoes, they will collapse.
Volume of trade is
it's a volume of trade because it is
It's a
only
very
$500 million and India.
it hardly affects them.
Right, sir.
Anyway, he's not. You don't come to that. What he's trying to say is
What new
would-
thing?
Yeah.
What do you think? How would you do?
Sir, putting the international pressure on Pakistan.
To do what?
So, firstly, if we are able to blacklist them in FATF, right now they are under grey list, and if we are able to blacklist them, so that would then in a way help in.
You can't get Maulana Masood Azhar blacklisted. You're talking about getting blacklisted.
So, but that is a very particular case in which China is using its veto. But if you are not able to.
China exists and it has veto power.
But sir, the case of China is different. Pakistan
But
is.
China's stand has changed. How has diplomacy succeeded there? Along those lines, give me the answer. In the last week, we've
Right,
seen China changing its stance.
Yes, sir.
It is because of some diplomacy somewhere.
So the France was initiating this call for.
So how would you take it forward from here, where we are? Give me 4 concrete steps in bullet points. Let's not beat around the bush.
So the very first step is to then give a strong statement with respect to the UN Security Council in which it properly condemns that, and if we are able to engage with China, and then if a political statement, if any statement comes from China which is condemning this attack, so that would do a lot. So thirdly, we have to use the international institutions which are actually aiding, which are giving the loans to Pakistan. So we have to sever that, and in that aspect, the role of.
That is theoretically what you are saying is correct. But I'm asking you, how could we achieve that? You see, what happens here, the Saudi prince comes to India, he is given a welcome of sorts, and then before coming here, he goes back to Dubai, UAE, and then before that, he goes and gives aids. We are not able to tell them, don't give them aids, right? All that we are saying, give us also, right?
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah,
how does it work?
yeah.
How will you get the aid stopped?
Sir, the relations.
Yeah, this is where I want to see how you think as an administrator if you're offered a position of an administrator. Right? I'm not trying to argue with you, I'm just trying to see your point of view.
So the particular visit of the Saudi Crown Prince, so that has to be looked in terms of the kind of benefits we are getting, and we need not to be too bothered.
This is too particular a point. He is asking anyway.
Okay.
I think we
He
get
is-
an email from here. He has answered what he could, right? So thank you.
We will call you. Just
We'll
you
call
wait
you
outside.
back.
We will brief you.
We will review and we will get back to you to
Just
help.
wait outside.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We will call you.
You have done well. You have done well. And ये दीजिए आप क्या कहेंगे आप?
आपने सिटी मारी आ गई?
आप ही नहीं मार रहे थे क्या?
कोई बात नहीं.
Yes,
So,
now.
इसको continue.
The point is that see, we would like to help you to do even better. Okay? The word even is underlined.
You have done excellent, but even then,
I'll tell you later what our consensus is on the kind of marks that you may get, because we have an idea, because people come back and report to the institute, so we
समझ है ना बेटा?
compare and this and that. So, but there are certain things on which you can improve and ensure this kind of rating. Okay? One thing is that sometimes I find that you are very good on the points. But sometimes, like on my, foreign service office, foreign service officers, you're not trying to catch my point, and you're getting a little, digressed. All that could be removed. And the last question from Malay sir. what you can do is, how can you do this now? Nobody is a repository of all the knowledge of the world. Nobody is. Not me, not you. But the point is that you can at least remain focused on the point. And that you can do if you first of all distinguish the features of the question. Like the biography, autobiography, romance, this. Now, the point is that what he's asking, you have to first of all think, what is he trying to get from me on this? And then go back to your books. If you just keep on attempting to say something or the other, if you just keep saying something or the other, then it gives a poor impression and it takes away from your otherwise good.
Sir, I would also like to add a comment.
Of course.
Do not forget one thing, Shukla Sahab, that you are the driver of the interview. Do not throw words which can lead to the second question which you are not very confident about. You were quite confident of this kind of strategy in the beginning, I noticed, through deliberately few words like Shanti Prasad case, you deliberately said ideas make revolution. But the moment you did French Revolution, I knew you would be trapped, and he also guessed it. Never do that. And secondly, just one thing. Apart from this, like sir also said, there is no taboo in saying I'm sorry, and let me say, so that the question can then be, whistled away, and another one can be, which is to your advantage. So please identify your strong points. Lastly, he had almost won it and then lost it. He said, "Thank you, sir," then he went away. Either don't specify gender. Thanks.
Thank you.
And that's enough. Otherwise, you've lost one member.
That's fine.
Thank you.
I quickly want to add one or two things. You have a very sound kind of a knowledge of things that you know of. There's no opinion about that. But it's all about presentation. How do you filter your knowledge and get the right thing there in front of the board is all about presentation. And that is where your personality gets reflected. No wonder this is called personality test. It is not called an interview. Right? It gets reflected. Never ever should you be giving the impression to the board that you are entering into a tete-a-tete.
Yeah.
That's one. Second, I think the only thing that you need to do is to think about the question before you start answering. Right? If I want you to compare the biographies or autobiographies of two people, I'm not asking you to compare the two people. I'm asking you to compare the writings about or by or for the two people. Right? This is how it should be. So, had you given it a thought, I would not have drawn you back from where you're going. You tend to go off at a tangent like this, right? And then I have to put you back on the track. Similarly, the last question, same thing happened. And French Revolution was a very remarkable turning point in the history of the world. However, the famous quote of Napoleon, I'll just finish by quoting. He said, "I found the crown of France lying in the gutter, and so I decided to pick it up with the tip of my sword. And therefore you should be calling me the soldier of the revolution."
Is it?
Yeah. Now, the revolution could not establish, after the fall of Bastille, there were counter-revolutionaries who took power.
Yes. It wasn't a success.
It wasn't a success.
Not at all.
So don't go get into that. Revolutionary idea will become a revolution when the idea is implemented. Simple, playing with words. When the idea gets implemented, it's a revolution. But for revolution to germinate, you need an idea. An idea will germinate into a revolution. Idea was given by Anna Hazare. Revolution went in the hands of Kejriwal. Right? That's it. Otherwise, sir will tell you.
Explain 2-3 things. Since you are from a family where there is a police officer, IPS officer, who are supposed to know the police system, that's expected of you.
That's his choice.
And then particularly the All India service is also So your father is an R&A service, premier R&A service, so you must know all these things yourself and update yourself. What is that? And last thing about the constitution, that's okay, but even then you update yourself and your style of telling should be different. When I ask you how a constitution is amended, the constitution can be amended as per the procedure laid down under Article 368 of the Constitution.
I went on with the whole
You should start like that only.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
And then that the bill has to be passed by both the houses separately by a special majority, that is 2/3 majority of the president and voting. These are the important things. Okay. And the last thing I must tell you, okay, since you will be going for UPSC interview, your dress and everything should be also properly, because generally they feel that if you are coming from a family where there is already a very senior officer, if you are coming from a village or they won't mind, they may ignore it. But since you are coming from a family where there is already an IPS officer, they will notice everything. So generally the checks are it's not generally acceptable with the tie and stuff.
Better to wear a plain
shirt. It's a plain shirt.
And also comb your hair properly.
Matching comb and this haircut and everything because they will observe you more keenly. Whether you are there in a proper discipline or you are a defined kind of person living in your own world, who doesn't bother about your father,
Right.
sucks and
Like,
kind
he
of
is
thing.
very right. Let me tell you, yesterday I was sitting in an interview to select a professor, an assistant professor in a college, right? Had you been there, you would have been the fittest person there because you look like an intellectual.
Yeah.
And you don't look like a cop.
Yeah.
And when a cop starts looking like an intellectual, then nobody takes him seriously.
But that's the only thing. Otherwise, you have very good
And
chances.
just on a lighter note,
Okay, sir.
when you just, I hope you
Okay,
don't.
now the talk is moving on.
Yeah.
The point is that
Do
you
you
must
want
be
to ask?
curious to know. We'll ask him that at the end.
Yeah.
So you must be curious to know that how have the four of us rated, because we have interviewed so many people over the years. Well, consensus is closer to 180. Okay?
180.
And 180 does get a person into a service. That's also been our experience. But everything depends on the day of the interview and your performance on the day. So you have to go with all these suggestions. When is your interview?
25th March.
A lot of time. So you can further brush it up a little and so on and so forth. And you could even get more. I'm not placing a thing there. But one thing is that you have to make a conscious effort to do that. So whether you have to stand before the mirror or you have to ask your father to sort of ask you questions and you answer back. Is he that kind of person or is he not that kind of person?
So he's not that kind.
Let him not be. There could be other people, your uncles, your friends, fathers, whatever.
Friends.
But you take it as an interview. That's why I always tell people, don't take this as a coaching exercise. We are not coaching you here, even now. We are reviewing. We're not meant to coach. That's not our
We
job.
just want to add some value.
Right, sir.
That's it.
You see, if you appear before us seriously, you try to answer us seriously with all the tips that we are giving you, and you improve by leaps and bounds. We just saw a person doing that. He came 23rd or something, 25th of January, now he came today, and there was a world of difference in him. At least two of the members who interviewed him earlier who have felt that. So we told him that, and you may even appear again before us or before any board. But don't jump around, because every board here, there's so many institutes mushrooming around. So what happens is
Yeah, that's very important. I think this point of sir is very, very important.
they start giving you altogether different ideas, and you get so confused by
The broth will get spoiled
Yes,
completely.
yes. Too many cooks. Yes. So ये थोड़ा आप ध्यान में रखिए.
Okay, sir.
And then it is, I almost overlooked this point, that in your case, your biodata is speaking out loudly about your father's service. Because you grow up in a family, you see, and you've grown up in an IPS officer's family. He might not have been an IPS all the while, but he is now, and he is holding a senior position. So there is a certain lifestyle. Because I've been a collector, so I can say that. He's been a senior person. Now, there is a lifestyle which we don't realize because we take everything for granted, but I can tell you, we live in a very secluded, very exclusive world, the IAS and IPS officers. We talk a lot, we criticize, but let's face the facts, we do. Till the last day of your life. I still go somewhere, the moment I tell them I'm a retired IAS officer, it makes all the difference. I don't have to say much after that. So they know that you come from such a family and they will certainly ask you some questions about that. And your personality will be tested differently to a person who's coming from a village.
I have seen you smiling only in the feedback session. That is the last thing.
You can also smile a little more.
You looked extremely tense throughout your interaction with us. That tension sometimes it suppresses your original self.
But there have been philosophers, administrators, and who spoke of it first of all? The ancient Greek. Can you remember his name? Anyway, doesn't matter. So, is there anything?
No, I don't smoke.
वो तो होता है कहीं पे. Have you any
No, the
question?
way he coughed, I realized.
Oh, any question?
Yes,
You
sir.
want to?
Yes, sir. So, firstly, I would want to ask you, sir, how should I answer this particular question related to foreign services and that foreign secretary's advice is not...
Very good. I'm so glad you asked me this. The point is, do not be so categorical right at the beginning. When you said the foreign service has this role, I didn't question you. But when you say foreign service officers have a very important role, you are getting into that realm which
is the fittest to follow.
Anybody who knows will question.
So my answer looks like it's only theoretical and he does not know what happens in reality.
One thing. Second thing is that you've already taken such a very strong stand.
Okay.
You don't know the foreign service people, IPS whether you can do. But about the foreign service, you don't know that much. So you should answer by saying that the foreign service officers play a very important role within the realm of diplomacy. Okay. Because you already said they tell the other countries about all that you already said. But that, so don't say such a very good thing right at the very beginning, because all the while you will be answering the second and third question which you created for yourself, and then it becomes difficult to handle. So I would say use the superlatives as little as possible in the beginning. At the end, then it keeps on going and some other question. Then you feel this guy will feel happy if I use a superlative, then use it.
Okay, sir.
Any other questions?
Sir, one question I wanted to ask you. Sir, with respect to Pakistan, sir, when you were interjecting me, sir, I felt that I could not come up with any answer as such.
I was interjecting you to put you back on the track.
Yes, sir.
Because what you were saying, such and such thing has happened, such and such thing has happened.
Yes, sir.
See, the thing is, the interviewer has very little time. He doesn't want you to beat around the bush. He wants straight answer from you. Now, what has not succeeded is all that which has been done. Now, when I'm asking you about international pressure, it can go, this debate can go on and on. That the United Nations itself is ineffective, what can you do? Right? How international pressure is created. But you look at today's headlines. That's why I got the newspaper, not for reading. Just read this. Read this sentence. It doesn't matter whether you agree with Trump or not. It doesn't matter whether you think Trump is a madman. But the headline says India planning strong response. Who says it? Says Trump. Right? Fine? Yes. Now what does it say? What does it mean? What is the implication? The implication is that Trump is tacitly supporting anything that India is going to do, and that is the basis on which he was telling me this morning that this man will win hands down, provided something happens. Our Prime Minister. Right? Now, this is how the pressure is created. Today, the COA has finally come up with a statement about the World Cup and India's participation, that the entire world should treat Pakistan as South Africa. And the same policy which was applied for apartheid against South Africa, India had the only chance to win the Davis Cup. Jaideep Mukherjee was in the final against South Africa. India refused to play and did not get the Davis Cup. But now the international pressure has to be generated. International pressure is not only generated through UN. International pressure is generated by putting pressure on your allies who will put pressure on their allies. You have an ally in Yeltsin and you have an ally in Trump today. This is the position of difference that we had from what it was in 1971. Right?
Yes, sir.
So, come to the point straight away. Sir, international pressure is the only way out. It saws international organizations. There will always be somebody to put a veto there. So what? How does it matter? Right? Come to the point straight away. Don't delete anything. You see, what happens is we are in the habit of giving a background, giving an introduction, giving a historiography, and then answering the question.
किसी क्वेश्चन में जरूरी होता है,
हमेशा जरूरी नहीं होता, समय कम है ना.
So with that we will
So sir, you had asked me what 4 steps would you take as a foreign secretary. So sir,
Yeah.
this particular I could
Yes.
not.
No, foreign secretary does advise the prime minister,
Yes, sir.
right? Just
To
as
take this line.
to take this line.
That's
Foreign secretary will go and tell him that this is, sir, I would like to propose to the cabinet. If you know the Indian constitution, you will not be proposing it. You will not be saying this should be done. You will be proposing it to the cabinet.
for consideration.
Right? For consideration, these points. Fine? You are also trying to keep your slate clean. I have done it. Rest is in the cabinet to decide. For the cabinet to decide, the prime minister will take a decision. I will implement whatever he says. But if you ask me, I will say this. If you don't like me, move me out. Send me as an ambassador to Korea, I will go. Happily.
once in a way you can also say, I'm sorry sir, I will not be, I'm not able to get that.
Question.
Yeah.
Can you please
Elaborate or something.
You know,
Somebody said it to me today.
Try to be true. Don't
Here,
deviate. Don't deviate.
sometimes I interject only to bring you back on the track because I have been on the board, the true board, and there the helpful board does it. I have seen one, or I have heard that the board of A.K. Dhan, his wife later became UPSC member, Madhuri Dhan. You know her, sir.
Yeah.
Huh? The board of A.K. Dhan was considered to be the most helpful. Why? Because Dhan would come and say, well, my dear members, I just want to tell you one thing. Please don't judge somebody on the basis of what the person does not know.
बिल्कुल.
Judge him on the basis of what he knows. And if he is not able to put forth his point of view,
That's
please ask him. Keep asking him till he comes up on his strong point. We all know much better than him. Therefore, we are sitting here and he is sitting there. Simple आदमी थे, रांची के रहने वाले थे. चलिए. Thank you very much. Thanks. All the best.
Thank you.
And if you like, you can come again. Here, the same place.
Yes, sir.
Let the same board assess you. Don't go, as he very rightly said, यहाँ तो जगह-जगह दुकानें खुली
Yes,
हैं.
sir, I will come back again. I don't
Whatever you
Yeah,
think.
Ravi ji.
ये तो हम लोग पढ़ने के हमारा ये देखिए.
Today is one because some are not enough candidates. So I don't. But there are two usually, so you can give your choice. You know our names now.
yes.
Give your choice so that we can tell you whether there's improvement or what improvement. That's all. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you.
Okay, all the best.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.